All right, everybody, welcome to Unscripted One-on-One. And as I just said offline, there are, and people have probably heard me say this a few times now, but there's some requests that you send out every now and then, and when they come back with a yes, I'll be on. You kind of do this little, at least I do. There's a little unscripted dance that I might do around the kitchen with the family. So today's one of those days. So let my guest introduce himself, and we got a lot to cover today. There's a lot of
Yeah.
fun and some great stuff to talk about. So let my guest introduce himself, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. My name is Doug Bender, and I'm honored to be considered your Hail Mary. So it's pretty exciting. I was excited to see your name come through. We connected. I was trying to think how far back it was, but it was quite a few years. You helped with the launch of one of my earlier books and to do some blogging stuff. So it was good to see an old name come through. I was like, hey, I know that name, and that's
That's
cool.
right.
So I'm excited we got to chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have just tell us a little bit about you and your family. Where are you guys living and
Yeah,
all that?
we're up in the Pittsburgh area, and my wife is from this area. We lived in Dallas for about a decade, and that's actually where we ran into the ministry we work with and called I Am Second. Been doing that for really since they started, back in 2008. And our mission is pretty simple. We're trying to get out there and inspire people to live second, put Jesus first in their lives. We play that out in our own backyard up here in Pittsburgh. We've started a little church about almost 2 years ago now, helping people live that mission out right here in their own backyards. But now, and I get to do it with some writing too. So I got a book coming out called I Found Love, where we're going to teach people and show people the power of God when He comes into our relationships. So we got a few things going on, but that's kind of the rundown.
Yeah, you do have a lot going on, and you've had a lot going on, and so we have a lot to cover. As I said, first of all, so I'm from Cleveland, and you got the Cleveland Pittsburgh thing, but I'm gonna tell you right
There you
now,
go.
I was never a Pittsburgh fan growing up. I honestly, the traffic every time I go into Pittsburgh, I get stuck in
Yeah.
traffic, and
Well,
I
not
just
everybody can be cool. That's all right.
I don't know how to drive or so apparently, but my point was, and there is a compliment coming. I love that city.
It's a good
Don't
city.
tell anybody from Cleveland, but I love Cleveland. I really do. It's I do love Cleveland, as people know. But I'm telling you, I love Pittsburgh. They've done
It's a
some
cool area.
amazing. What an incredible city that they've done with downtown. Just a great city. So
Yeah,
I love me some Pittsburgh. I really do. I love great night. Great nightlife downtown. Just a great
sure
place to
is.
go and have a meal in the summer. Just awesome. So yeah, downtown. I didn't say it right. Now I have to
There
see.
you
Now I
go.
have,
You got it. I heard that.
all
Yeah,
right.
my brother has even got a coffee shop downtown. Creative Coffee. If you ever get downtown, you have to check out his coffee. It's good stuff.
It's funny. I feel like I've heard that. I've heard of that before. Honestly, I
Well,
really do
it's
think I've
really
heard
good
of
stuff.
Creative Coffee in downtown Pittsburgh. So anyway, man, so you mentioned it. Let's start there because that was our connecting point was I Am Second. And as you said, it's been a few years. Obviously it's, I don't even know. I Am Second. It's got to think been at least maybe a decade, right? It's been a
It
while.
has. The funny story how it started is it was really meant to be a rather local thing in Dallas. A number of people got together and said, we need to tell people here in our own city that Jesus is awesome. He's first, and He's changed our lives. That first early campaign is really meant to be a local thing. We put a bunch of billboards, a website, and we had some local celebrities. But turns out local celebrities can also be the internet's big these days.
Yeah,
So
kind of. Yeah.
we realized as we got going that when you put some folks on the internet and these videos or films of people just sharing their story of how Jesus just radically changed them, um, that people really connected with that.
Yeah.
And that little local outreach that we were aiming for ended up going worldwide pretty quickly. And it's been, we had some local expressions over the years, a number of different cities, Nashville, a couple places in Florida, and but now it's pretty well known around the internet, especially just people really simple telling their stories on how Jesus became first in their life and what happened when He did that, because inevitably Jesus really changes lives,
Mhm.
and we really aim for folks that perhaps haven't quite connected with perhaps a traditional church situation. They may be spiritually curious or interested in Jesus, but haven't really found a place to pursue some of those questions. And so we try to meet them, really starting with some of their heroes, some of their famous folks that are watch on TV or in sports or in media, various places that they might recognize and say, hey, here's a story you should really listen to.
Incredible. And it's funny because I think, the jelly bracelets, I think it was started by Lance Armstrong, right? So he started the whole jelly bracelet, yellow, live strong.
Yeah.
And before you knew it, everybody had a jelly bracelet, but there was one that started to catch everybody's eye, and it was this black one because everybody had the yellow, right? And then all of a sudden people had a black one and it had white writing on it and it said, I am second. And honestly, we could probably do a whole segment on guerrilla marketing because
Yeah.
I would be amazed to find out, and I'm sure there's some statistics somewhere that somebody, and maybe even your team knows, how many people came to that website because they saw the bracelet. And I'm pretty sure not a Sunday or a sports event goes by where you don't see a player. Well, I don't know, and I don't know about hockey because they have gloves on, but basketball, right?
It's under there, I'm sure.
Football, baseball, you see I am second everywhere. As you said, is it okay to call it a movement? Like to me, it felt like
that's
a movement.
really the word that we end up we're trying to figure out, how do we name this thing? What is this thing? And movement really was the thing that I think has captured us. I mean, just what was it? It was last month. I was on an airplane. I know you don't get on airplanes much anymore, but I was on an airplane. And I gave my ticket to the lady as I was about to walk through, and as she scanned my ticket, I saw, sure enough, she had an I am second wristband. I said, "Oh, and I'm trying. There's a big line behind you, so I'm trying to move forward." But I was like, I write for them. I know I am second, and
yeah,
it was funny. I could tell it didn't quite connect. Like, what do you mean you write for them? And then as I was like 20 feet down the ramp there, I see her head pop in. She goes, "Oh, that's cool!" Like it finally hit her. Like, "Oh, that's awesome."
Right. That's awesome.
Somebody else.
Well,
But yeah,
imagine
you mentioned hockey.
like
We
I said,
even
you
got
probably watch it.
Mike
Go ahead.
Fisher. Are you familiar with? Are you a hockey fan? Mike Fisher played a long time for
There you go.
Predators. So
I'm
he's actually
familiar
in
with
the
his
book.
wife. Well, I know who his wife is.
Most of us are. A good Carrie Underwood reference there.
Right.
So yes, Mike Fisher, Carrie Underwood, they're actually in our book as well. But yeah, so we even got into the hockey realm. So that was exciting.
Yeah, it's amazing the breadth of guests. And we'll transition the book because I know we really want to camp out on the new book because I spent a little time with it myself, and it's awesome. I really want to camp out there, but I really want people to understand the build up to that and where where you've where we connected. What I am second is, I actually was talking to a friend just before hopping on here, and he wanted to call me, and I'm like, I'm doing this thing with I am second. And he's like, what's I am second? And it was funny because I was thinking, well, so there you go. That's just another example of what I really love about I am second is how you've diffused the, we've all been around church, or some of us never, some of us the rest our whole lives, right? Or our whole lives.
Sure.
So
the mix.
At some point there's that awkward moment where you have that invitation or you want to introduce someone to church or Jesus or God or faith or whatever it might be. There's always this kind of awkward moment like, hey man, you want to come to church with me on Sunday? Or, and you never know what their history was and what that does to them when that question is asked. Well, I am second diffuses that because you guys have had everybody from the lead singer of Korn to baseball players, as you said, Carrie Underwood and her husband. Is it the Gaines?
Chip and Joanna Gaines. Yeah,
right. I mean, TV celebrities, writers, movie star. You've had Bethany Hamilton. I could just get on the list. I mean, there's 100+ films, right? There's a ton of films across all genres. So there's probably someone in there. There's a film in there that I could send to a friend, and that wherever they are, whether it's a country music fan, a hockey fan, as you said, a baseball fan, you name it, I could send a film to someone or a link and say, hey, you know how much you love Carrie Underwood? Check this out, right? That diffuses the awkwardness of the moment and lets them know, to me, and this is just my perception of why it's been so successful. It diffuses it for someone who has zero, or they've been hurt. And that's what I want to transition to,
Yeah.
because I think that's where your book really hits. But
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
glad you say all that, because honestly, that's really our goal. We all have friends in our lives. I'm one of them, where they're not really in church, not really in a place where like they're getting exposed to some of that thing, like the Bible and Jesus. But when you talk to them, you sense this openness, and you wish you had something to bridge that gap.
yep,
And that's exactly what we've aimed to be, to bridge that gap. Another way of sometimes how I phrase it is that we aim to be unchurched safe. So
yes,
you got an unchurched friend, someone that's not really into that don't necessarily even know that vocabulary. You of course, if you go to church, you want them there too, right? But what if they're not? And you wonder, like, okay, if I bring them this Sunday, is this a safe Sunday? Like, what's the sermon? What songs are they going to sing?
yep,
Am I going to
right,
freak my friend out?
right,
Right? You run through that. And we very much aimed at being something you could safely share with your friend to really bridge that gap, or a family member. And yeah, those films have been a very broad section of all sorts of backgrounds. So yeah, I think our last count, I think we're approaching 150 films.
wow,
So in some of them, we got full-length documentaries now as well. So we even got some variety in there. But there was a film on there that your friend, your family member, your neighbor is going to want to watch and really start that conversation.
yep,
When we sell our clothing, like this is one of our jackets, it comes
awesome,
with a tag, and it says, caution, may spark conversation.
yep,
And
I remember.
that's our goal. We're trying to give you a tool that says, hey, here's a way to bridge that gap. So I'm excited you've seen that be on the other side of things. That's been our aim.
And for anyone that's a believer that buys the merch, because I had a t-shirt, I have a t-shirt. I'm not sure if it fits after COVID, but I do have I have the t-shirt,
Right.
the iconic, just black, white letter. I mean, just so simple. I love, that's why too, is I love the chair, the background, everything's simple.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't distract from the message, right? That's what's so cool about it. And I do remember that. And I remember getting it and thinking, oh boy, you're in it now. Just like the lady at the airport, somebody's
Yeah.
going to say something. You better be prepared to have an answer. And I think that's even in the Bible.
Yeah.
There's a scripture that says,
Right.
always be prepared, right? To have
Well, it's funny. It really does. Like when you wear something that says "I am second" in
who's
big
first,
letters, right? That's the question. They're always going to say, "Well, hey, who's first?" And
right?
you have no idea who this person is half the time, but they're
Yep.
going to ask you, and it's T-ball at that point. They've
Right.
literally said, "Okay, you can tell me about Jesus now, right
Yeah.
there."
Yeah.
Right? And it's a beautiful setup.
It
So
is. You guys did a fantastic job with it. And I don't know if it was even as intentional as it had become, but if it is, congratulations, because it really is. It's a conversation starter. And then you've backed it up with resources that are awesome. So I don't want to spend too much time on I Am Second, but I did want people to know where our connecting point was and let you know, thank you, because as you said a few years ago, you posted one of my posts, and it was I think it was called The End of Innocence, and it was in reference to Miley Cyrus and how people were just trashing her after the VMA Awards, I believe it was, where she
yeah,
kind of full of herself. But at the end of the day, what I said is she just did it publicly, but we've all done the same thing. And
yeah,
I think that was the gist of the blog post. But I
yeah.
was so honored to even be attached to your website. It was honestly just an incredible honor for me, that something that I would write would hit your website. But so I've
Yeah, I
always,
remember that post. It was a fun post to do. We periodically like to dive into some of the music folks and that aren't necessarily, out there talking about Jesus, but you know what? It's real life, and hey, we're all listening to that music, so let's talk about it.
yeah. And hopefully someday you get Miley on.
There you go.
So,
That'd be fun.
all right. So let's transition, man. You've got not just one. Before we get to the latest one, because that's
Yeah.
really where I do want to spend my time. You've got several books. So let's talk about all of them first. I have one right in front of me because this was back when they still did hard copies. So
Yeah, that's right.
I have the
There it is.
iconic book. If anybody
Yep.
watching or anybody listening, I'm holding up a book from I Am Second called I Am Second. And anybody watching, you see it, the chair, the simple writing. It's but incredible book. And what I loved about this book, and I haven't seen this in a lot, and I haven't bought a lot of books lately, but one of my favorite things in this book was the way that there was a QR code at the end of every chapter, or I think at the end of every section, where you
Yeah.
could scan it and go to the video for people that you had just read about, which was really awesome. You guys really just did everything right on that. But that was that your first book, Doug?
Yeah, that was our first book. I co-wrote that with Dave Starrett. I'm a great guy. And yeah, it was really our headliner book of here are some of our, at that time, it was back in 2012. So we're only a few years old at that point. We said, here's some of our headliner stories, some of those key stories everybody really gravitates towards. And we put them in a narrative form. So it's not like in a first person where like, here's the transcript of the film. It's like, it tells the story like you might expect in a book. But yeah, like you said, the cool thing is if you love that story and you want to hear that person themselves tell you their story in their own words, you can literally go watch the video. It's
Yep.
up there. And that's true for all of our books that we've been able to do. You can read it in the narrative form. That's some people, that's really how they like to consume content. But you can also just go watch their own story. You get it shorter when you watch them tell it, because nobody wants to watch the full 45-minute unedited interview or so. But we pare it down to about 7 or 8 minutes.
And they're always great. I mean, they're powerful. Some of they're just amazing. Like if anyone that's listening to this has never visited iamsecond.com, go to iamsecond.com and spend some time, or even YouTube. I think you can probably get there. Just go to YouTube and type in I Am Second. You'll find some videos that'll really, really they're amazing. You guys just have an incredible creative team for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and then we followed up that book. The question we want to answer after that book was, okay, if you've been inspired by some of these stories and you say, man, I want this life that they're talking about.
Yep.
I want that experience. The next thing we wanted to put out was we wanted to say, well, here's some step-by-steps. Here's how you can do that. So we created what we call a daily reader. In Christian circles, we might call that a devotional. But it's basically you read a page a day, and it walks you through, and it's called Live Second, 365 ways to make Jesus first.
Yep.
So it's like a whole year, just page at a time, and we put in some of our films and some of the key Bible quotes and stuff that inspired some of these films. And we just said, hey, if this life that you're getting exposed to is inspiring to you, here's how you can do it. It's step by step.
And I'm 99.9% sure now that you say that, and this is welcome to Unscripted, because I'm pretty sure it's on that bookshelf back there. So it's over here, but I have that one as well. And it was awesome. Just another great resource that you guys have continued to provide. And I remember one point, I want to say you had some downloadable PDF devotionals, because my son, when he was young, he was in not nursery, he was in grade school. And we actually printed all those off, and he and I started walking through and doing some of those devotionals. And he was almost too young at the time, because some of the content, not that it was adult content, but he just didn't understand. He hadn't grasped it yet. I'd love to actually go back and do it with him now that he's, in college. But
in fact, we still have, we still do that. Get it free stuff on our website. You find it under the Live Second section. Yeah, it's aimed for either an individual, you can do it, but also with a small group. I'm currently working on another one called Who Am I? And it will be a study into identity and like who we are in Jesus, and if how does God rewrite our stories. So it's all free stuff. Basically, if we can get it to you free, we do. So our films can get it to you free. If you want a printed book, it costs us money to print, so you got to go buy that. T-shirt, same thing. But yeah, we get a lot of that free download stuff, and it's super helpful for folks.
It is great. And so, and I think you had at least one more book, right? You had, is it I Found Love? Is that what it's called? No, I'm sorry.
Last year was I Choose Peace.
I Choose Peace. All right. And then we'll get to
I Choose Peace.
But I Choose Peace, right?
And really, it was interesting. That book landed just like a month or two before COVID hit. And so just as everybody's lives were being turned upside down, and they're still all upside down right now, and now spinning in various directions, this book called I Choose Peace comes out. And really it was, again, same basic idea as the first of telling us stories, but this one was really themed and had some more direct content aimed at helping someone discover peace, and really not just discover it, but choose it for their life. Because that's one thing about peace, is that it's kind of like when you need to forgive somebody, like you can forgive them today, and then tomorrow you realize I got to forgive them again because I took it back.
Right.
and you realize it, and you have to keep forgiving. And
Yeah.
peace is like that. You can choose peace, but then you have to kind of keep choosing it.
Mm.
And so this book kind of walks you through that, but not so much like a sermon would. It's not like here's a book and it's going to tell you, all the sermon notes about peace. It's going to tell it to you via people's stories and how
Yeah.
they walk through that.
Perfect segue. So, and I'm going to have all the links to all these things that we're talking about in this post and available for everyone. But perfect segue to your latest book, which is where I really want to talk about, and that is I Found Love. Right?
Yeah.
I Found Love, and that's going to be available in January, correct?
Yep. January 12th is when it hits stores everywhere. It'll have 15 different stories of people from all walks of life. You got folks on the radio, TV, music. You got an MMA fighter, Chad Robichaud. You've got, like you mentioned before, we got Mike Fisher of the Predators and his wife, Carrie Underwood, is in there. Many others. But yeah, these are folks telling their stories and how they found love when God found them.
And so there was a quote, and I reviewed some of the book last night. Unfortunately, transparency. I didn't get through the whole thing, but I did.
I can't believe that.
I did review a lot. I really did try to cram for this test today, but no, I loved every minute of it. And honestly, I didn't get past the intro before something like knocked me sideways, and I had to write it in my own handwriting. So I'm going to try and read this quote that was in there, but it is my own handwriting. So, but all right. So it said 35% of the people you're liking online feel just as unliked or lonely as you. Fewer than 1 in 10 claims to have had a meaningful conversation recently with people they live closest to. The people they live closest to. 1 in 3 struggles with anxiety and worry. If you're one of those people, then the stories of hope, love, and belonging are for you. Man, as soon as that hit me, I thought, welcome to 2020.
Yeah. Right.
So let me ask you this. Did you write this pre-COVID, or were you writing this in the midst of COVID?
Well, that's a funny thing how God works sometimes is he knows what the plan is, but we don't always. And so this book was completed way before COVID. We did a few touch-ups and edits into the spring and early summer, but the bulk of this book I turned into editors in January.
Wow.
So COVID was this little news article on the 16th page about something in China at that point.
Right.
And so, this wasn't written with that in mind, but you see how sometimes God kind of had that in plan. He knew people were going to need this message right about now. And especially even when I was getting to winter, I know our area is shutting down again and others. I got myself under quarantine right now, even just because it's so easy to be exposed now to somebody that has it. But it's a message people need. I mean, you need it now, but and the biggest thing that line really communicates to me, and something I picked up just as I was preparing to write this book, was people are lonely. It's just
yes.
And when you feel lonely, part of that feeling is you feel like you're the only one that's alone. That's why you feel lonely sometimes. And sometimes it can be a relief, a source of hope, just to know you're not the only one, that others are also feeling that way.
Yeah.
That's how I wanted to start that book off is basically to say, hey, you're not alone.
Yep.
And you're about to jump into this book with all these stories of people who have been there. The details are different. Their stories a little bit different in the context and all that. But at heart, at the base of it, it's really, these are stories we can all relate to, because hope and loneliness and anxiety, these are all things all of us are working through.
Yeah. And that's when I saw that. That's why I was so curious. When did you write it? Because that's actually fascinating if you think about it, that that God knew, as you said, what was coming and has prepared some resources, because I believe I say this on every possible podcast. I'm worried about the mental health and wellness of my adults, but I'm also worried about our kids. And what a message for such a time as this. And I actually just posted one from another book that was talking about the 8 ways to get through adversity. And it's funny how even these are coming to this podcast right now. And I don't know how many people listen to this, but I think the message is clear, and we all are aware that mental health COVID is obviously devastating, but
Yeah.
mental health and wellness are probably going to be the next big story, and they
They sure
already
will.
are. I think we're seeing that. And so a book that helps people not feel, I mean, if anything, and actually my pastor on Sunday did a sermon on isolation.
Mm,
What is, and how, what that does to us. We weren't built for this. We weren't meant for this. We're meant for
right.
community. And the one thing that's been taken away from us is community. We can't get together. We can't even get together with our family on a holiday. Right. And so we're
Yeah.
all, there's a vacuum, there's a void, there's a hole that can't be filled right now by the one thing that we're really, built for, and that's for each other, for people. We can't even shake a hand,
Yeah. It's a
crazy.
wild
So
feeling.
yeah, and love, right? I mean, we have, so you better love the 5 people, 4 people, 2 people, whatever it is that you're quarantined with or you're in the house with, you better. But there's a lot of really powerful stories in there, really, really. And as you said, it's not just 2 people that found love. It's not all versions of The Bachelor or Bachelorette,
Right.
right? It's
Right.
it's very wide, and there's multiple sections. And I apologize because I don't have the physical copy in front of me. I just had the digital one, and it was a preview. What are the sections, because they
Yeah.
are different?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't yet have a physical copy myself, so they're still printing it,
Okay,
but
I don't feel
I'm
alone then.
expecting that soon. Yeah, so we started off on the topic of in search of love is the first section, and that's where we really hit on issues of family, of romance, of dating and marriage, parents and child, those kind of relationships. Funny enough, we actually do have a bachelor story in there. A guy named Sean Lowe. Some of you
Yep.
may know that name. One of my favorite stories in that section is actually the first story in the book is from David and Tamala Mann, really famous in certain circles and not so in others. But they, if you're a Tyler Perry movie fan, you know exactly who they are. But they just came from a really rough background, and David in particular just struggled a lot with anger. He experienced, witnessed a lot of abuse in his family, and he kind of grew up just his experience with men was that men beat my mom up,
Mm.
and so he just grew up with that in him, and it really came to a point. At one point, he was asked to speak at this event. It turns out it was like a men's breakfast event, right?
Right.
And so, he did his thing and got prepared and had his little lesson ready, and he got up to speak, and he just felt like God was moving him to confess.
Mm.
And it was just one of those things where God said, "I've got bigger plans for than what you're currently doing, and it's going to involve you having some relationships with men, which right now you're incapable of. So you need to make that right and start confessing."
Wow.
So he gets up in front of this whole room full of men, and instead of giving the lesson he was, asked to come and give, he tells them how much he hates him and how angry he is at him. And he did it not because he, was trying to be hateful, but he's saying, I'm dealing with this.
Yeah.
I have this anger, this bitterness from my childhood. And he said it this way. He goes, "There's something that God just broke it off on me
Mm.
that day. That there's this bitterness that he just broke right off because
Yeah.
I was able to confess." And so anything dealing with your family or relationships, there's a lot of stories. His is one of my favorite in there, and he kind of walks you through how God did that and how it really led up to that moment. But those are the kind of stories we have. That's the
Yeah.
first section.
Excellent. And then I went on a little further. Obviously, Carrie Underwood. I mean, everybody knows Carrie Underwood, from
Oh
whether you're
yeah,
a country music fan, or, Jesus Take the Wheel, you name it, American Idol. I mean, she's just very broad. And unfortunately, I'm not a hockey guy, so I don't know her husband as well. And I don't
yeah,
even know Carrie, but we know of Carrie, right? Everybody knows
right,
her. So to have their story be in there was incredible, right? Just to have them
yeah,
be that vulnerable. That's the amazing thing, is that people that are in the public eye, I don't think are quick to be vulnerable and really tell a story like they tell in this book. Is that fair?
right. And it is fair, and part of it is just how quick some folks can be at judging a person's weakness. But and that's one of the things, revealing a person's weakness is one of the things we try to normalize that in these stories. There's stories in our second section called "In Search of Belonging," and one of the things their story in particular walks us through is they really struggle to feel, this idea that they belong, in particular, that their family life was something belonged in God's plans, right? In particular, Mike and Carrie were talking about how Carrie had a number of miscarriages. And that's something my wife and I, we've had to go through ourselves, and it can be a very devastating, and you feel alone.
Mhm.
You feel like, man, I thought me and God were okay, but
Yeah.
maybe we're not, because what's up with this?
Yeah.
And that's very much kind of the story they work through, which, yeah, it was a very revealing story that Mike Fisher and Carrie Underwood got to share with us. That's in this book. And the chapter is called Valleys Wrestling with Loss. Just because the beautiful thing is that we still belong with God even when loss comes in. And what their story will tell you, that it's in those moments of loss that we often find the deepest belonging, because that is when we tend to be the most vulnerable with God and He back with us.
Right.
And I know that's something my wife and I have experienced firsthand, but they did as well. So yeah, that's a part of their story. They don't always talk about out in public, but it was great to be able to share that and be a part of sharing that story for them.
And your stories are powerful too. You were a 2-time I Am Second chair guy, right?
Yeah, I've been in a couple seats. My first one, I really kind of told the story of I grew up in church a lot, and but so I knew God existed, and I believed in Jesus. I knew He died on the cross for our sins, and that He loved the world. I knew all that. The thing I wasn't entirely sure on was, does He like me though?
Mm.
Like, I knew He loved the world and He cared about the world, but I guess that, and I'm not sure I even could put it into words then, but the thought that would run into my head was, does He care about my life? Does He love me, like in
Right.
particular? Or is it just like a generalized love that He
Mhm.
has? Yeah, and that first time I sat down in the chair, I shared the moment I realized He cared, and it was a silly little moment, but it was an important moment for me.
Yeah.
It boiled down to this little birthday party when I was 16 years old. I was kind of a lonely kid. Talking about belonging, I didn't feel like I belonged, and I got picked on a bit. And my prayer, I mean, just for years, God, I just want one friend.
Mm.
That's what I'm asking for. And the last birthday party I'd had, nobody showed up to, you know. And so I just, as a kid, it was crushing.
Sure.
And then, but then my 16th birthday came around, and I invited like 2 people, because I figured if I only invite 2 and nobody comes, only 2 people aren't my friend.
Yeah.
So, but God filled my house with friends.
That's
And
awesome.
I realized, I remember saying a prayer to God at that moment. I said, God, I never knew you were one of my friends,
Mm.
because friends care about each other, and
Mhm.
they come to your party, right?
Yeah.
And I realized that God came to my party that day, and that just changed my life. It was a simple little thing, but that was my story. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And I will include all these in the post as well, because the second one was powerful. And I remember I
Yeah.
did watch it because I wanted to see, and you told the story of, your family, and that was powerful. So I'll put both those in there as well.
That'd be great.
But the other thing too is, and so starting this podcast, what's been incredible is just the network and the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon that has happened. So
Yeah.
I had someone reach out to me, a friend, a veteran of the show, a veteran being on one time of the show, was like, I think I can connect you with Danny Goki. And so
Oh, cool.
then I open your new book and I see Danny Goki. So I don't know if it's meant to be that Danny Goki will be on Unscripted one day, but either way, there's
Hey,
another
I'll put a
chapter
good
that
word in
has an
for you.
incredibly powerful story. Danny
Yeah.
Goki, just and hard. That's again.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's the other thing I want to talk about. I Am Second, your books, everything. There's a theme, and that is it's not always pretty, and it's
Right.
hard. There's a raw and a roughness and all that to so many of the stories, and that's another connecting point I think is for people. Again, as we said, if you introduce somebody to I Am Second, they're going to see that they're not coming in with everything's heart stars and rainbow.
Right.
Even a life of faith can be tough, whether it's you came from a toughness that brought you to a life of faith, or you have been a Christian your whole life. You're still going to face adversity. And here's Danny Goki, a contestant on American Idol, and his story is in there, right? Another one of those
Yeah.
powerful stories.
Very powerful story, because he kind of came from the church side of things, grew up in church and grew up believing that God can heal and God does heal. Not just that he can, but he does.
Yeah.
And then he was faced with the reality of his wife, dying.
Right.
And it was devastating because how do you process that? If God loves us and is capable of healing people who are sick and dying, and he doesn't, what do we do with that?
Yeah.
And so that's a really important question. It's a question that folks in the church and outside the church, folks of all different backgrounds, are asking of, well, what do you do with that? And his story really has a profound answer to it, and really rests on this idea of hope. And that in this world, there is hardship and there is things that are broken. Our trust is not in this world. It's not in everything here going right. It's whether or not at some point in the future, God will fix it. And, I've had those conversations with God too. And I face something and I say, God, I've said these words. I say, God, I'm going to trust you here, but I'm looking at this scenario and I think it's a bad plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've said that, right?
That's awesome.
I say, I'm going to trust you because I'm sure you have a better one, but everything I'm looking at, this looks like a bad plan.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Danny Gokey's really, if I were to summarize his words, that's what he looked at. He said, God, I don't know why you take my wife. That seems like a really bad plan.
Yeah. Right.
Right. I mean, there's
Crazy.
a lot of things you could have done, God. That didn't seem like the best option.
Yeah.
But he walks us through on how powerful God can be in those moments, and really ultimately how you don't just survive the ultimate loss like that, but you actually can grow stronger because of it. Not just survive a relationship with God in that, but you actually get closer to God when those kind of things happen.
Yeah. And that's the theme of the book. The book is just about love. And as you said, there's I think we covered 2 sections. How many sections total?
There's 3, and the last one is about friendship, and the remarkable ways God shows up in our friends. It's a big category because most of our relationships are in the friend category, and I'm not related to, married to, or wanting to be married to this person.
Yeah. Right.
One of my favorite stories, and I'll give you a little behind the scenes here. I remember with is Stephen Baldwin. He's in this book, famous actor, lots of great movies going all the way back to the 90s. And what a lot of people don't always know is that this guy really loves Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were putting together the first book, I can't remember the process of why we picked which stories and not the other, but for some reason we didn't pick Stephen Baldwin. And so I was really excited to have another book where his story was a great fit to it. And that's this one here. And he really found Jesus and through his like a live-in nanny housekeeper that came to the house. And it shows you how God can work through relationships and really speak through people. That many times when God speaks, he's not going to come out of the skies and talk to you. A lot of times he's going to talk to you through the Bible, or going to speak to you through a mentor or a friend. And in this case, they flew this lady up from Stephen's, his wife was from Brazil, flew this lady up from Brazil to live in the house while they had their kids were young. And this lady didn't come to take care of their house. She told him this one day, which blew their minds, because Stephen Baldwin and his wife were not, they're not Jesus followers. Right. And then one day their housekeeper nanny says, I'm not really here to take care of your house. And they say, well, why are you here? That's why we're paying you. That's why we have you here.
Right.
Her answer was really profound. Her answer was, well, God just told me that one day you're going to follow Jesus and have a ministry to help other people follow Jesus. And I'm here to introduce you to Jesus. It was just unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
That she would first off have the gall to say something like that.
Right.
She's not even in her native country. I mean, how do you?
Right.
But it turns out she was right. And now he's out there and he loves Jesus.
Yeah.
He's still as crazy as ever, but he's crazy for Jesus now. And it's really amazing stories.
That's incredible. And there's so many Great story. It's just a great book. It's a great, all of them are beginning to end. Every one that you guys have put out are incredible. The stories are incredible, and I'm looking forward to it. So tell me again the launch date, January
12th, we're going to hit
January
stores.
12th.
And you can pre-order now. In fact, when you do pre-order, which is anytime until January 12th, it encourages bookstores to buy more books and Amazon to buy more books. So go ahead and get that book out there. And that lets the word get out a little faster. So
yeah, well, and I think by the time this airs, or that we actually put this out, we'll be into 2021. So happy New Year!
Happy New Year. That's right.
So
It's a
all right,
great
I have
news
some
book,
rapid fire
especially
questions
for your. You'll be good just in time for your February themes of love, and I know there's going to be a lot of churches using this book for kind of theming of their various things, and we got a discussion guide that goes with it. So a lot of small groups will want to start their year with this study, some finding love.
Pardon my, no pun intended. I love that idea. I love that idea. I didn't put those two together because
Yeah.
I was so focused on the fact that honestly, I think we'll still be probably through the grind of it. I know we got a vaccine coming, and and
Right.
everything's whatever, but I'm still really, really believing that this is an excellent resource. So if you want to get it before Valentine's Day, this is a great resource because I think so many people feel alone, and even people that are together in a quarantine situation probably feel alone because they're not getting that external someone that I don't see every day, whether it's
Yep.
a coworker, a friend, a small group at church, wherever we find our community. We're not in it. We're not in our community, and I think there's great stories in here of people finding really life-changing and truly life-changing love in a lot of 3 different sections, 3 different ways, 3 different areas in tough times, in different backgrounds. It's just awesome, man. You guys did a really, really good job.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm excited. I know there's a lot of people out there feeling lonely. They're looking for some purpose, and I think this book is really going to help folks. A lot of great stories in there. Whatever your background, you're going to find someone in here that speaks to your life.
Always. And that's true even back to I Am Second. You'll find that whatever your passion might be in life, you're going to probably find somebody that's an icon for you in that area, whether it's sports or music, as we've said a few times now. So I will have all the links, and I'll make sure I get all the links from you, the direct links that I need to get before we, and those will all be in the blog. And all right, you got time for some rapid fire?
I do.
I don't know my Baldwins. Is you said it was Stephen Baldwin?
Yes.
So is his daughter the one that's married to Bieber?
It sure is.
Is Bieber an I Am Second guy?
Well, we would love that.
I don't have any connection.
He's listening. Bieber, if you're listening, we'd love for you to come on.
Well, I don't know.
I will say this. I have found
the world, but
yes, I found myself on his Instagram feed more often than I would like to admit. In that I really do believe he knows and loves Jesus, but he has the struggles like the rest of us. The main difference is everybody's looking at him, and not everybody's looking at me and you, Aaron. And so, everybody looks at him. And so when he has a mess up or a struggle, man, it's everywhere.
Big time.
Haley too. She's great. We don't have direct contact with her, but Stephen Baldwin is her father. So yeah, that's in the family. So, and if ever our paths meet up, we'd love to connect.
Well, if ever Justin listens to this lowly podcast in Ohio, get on I Am Second, Justin. Come on, man, help us out. No, I'm just kidding. That's Aaron, the 6 degrees of Justin Bieber now. I mean, that's right. We got to get him. Right. He's the perfect guest. You said it. He's the perfect guest.
So me, Stephen, Haley, Bieber. So there you go. We're only 4 degrees off there.
There you go. That's it. Next thing you know, Bieber will be on, and I'm a believer. My kids are. So
yeah.
Hey,
it's good music.
All right. So next one, and you mentioned this. This is a really good one. So that leads me to my next one. Also, and I usually cover this. An underwritten rule of Unscripted is if I ever ask you something that you can't answer, or don't, or aren't comfortable, you just say pass, and the audience knows you can't answer it. How's our guy Josh Hamilton?
He honestly, he's one of those stories. I love to follow his story, and he's had a very public battle with drugs, and we're in the Pittsburgh area. Pittsburgh has got a lot of drugs issues as well, and it really overcomes your life pretty quickly, and it makes you do things you otherwise would never do.
Yeah.
So how is Josh? He's in that battle right now,
Yep.
and he's going to do stuff that he regrets, but he's also striving for it.
Yep.
He's working towards it. We're praying for him. We love him, and I have confidence that what God has begun in him, he will complete.
Absolutely. And I would echo the same thing. I don't know Josh Hamilton from anyone. He wouldn't know me if I ever walked by him on the street. But for some reason, I cheer for him. And I think it's just maybe identifying with the struggle. I can't identify with the demons that he fights,
Sure.
but I can identify with the struggle. His is, again, it's like Miley Cyrus, right? It's just public. And as you said, the same with Bieber. Those guys have professed their faith in a large platform, but unfortunately with that comes a really bright spotlight, and it's going to show every mistake you make. And for that reason, I've always had I don't want to call it soft spot or something, but for Josh, but every time I read an article where he failed a little bit, my heart breaks. And I want to celebrate with Josh one day. I really do. And I do believe I think he just battles demons that some of us will never understand.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next one. What's your favorite guest you've ever had on the white chair?
Oh, well, first off, I'm going to say that my answer on that changes every time somebody asks me. We have so many. But the one that probably comes back the most often is Brian Head Welch from Korn. Just a fantastic, dramatic story. And we love that story so much that we actually did like a full-length documentary on him. It's just powerful stuff. And the thing I love about it most is you realize that even when God does really big things in your life, it's not over.
Right.
He's not done with you, and he's still got things to work through. He gave this analogy of sometimes our life with God is like a pumpkin, and he's got to cut open the top and scoop out all that junk, and it's painful and it's messy, but at the end he can put a light inside of you.
Wow.
And I love his story because I feel like he lives that.
Yeah. And his is raw as it comes. His defines. That's a great answer. And I didn't know what you were going to say, because I don't. There's so many. How do you pick one? That's what I thought my answer would be, is how do you pick one? But his is the beauty of I Am Second, and it's really raw and it's really rough. And the story isn't this prepackaged feel good on Sunday, but it's our faith, and it's the story of so many. So that's a great answer. It's a really great answer. Do people really sign the back of the white chairs?
They do. In fact, we've got a couple chairs. Okay. I'll let the secret out. There's actually more than one chair. Okay. One we have in Nashville because we do a lot of film shoots there. One's in Dallas. So and there's actually, this is rare, but we actually have a black chair as well. When we were first starting I Am Second, we weren't sure if we were going to go, you wear white in a black seat or you wear black in a white seat.
Yeah.
So if you watch one of our earliest films with Jason Castro, who's in this book as well.
Yes.
His video, he's got it. The colors are reversed. White shirt with a black chair, and he signed it. But all of them, they are signed on the back. We do sign them.
So, and so you have signed it twice?
I've signed it. So
there you go. That's awesome. Yep. Very cool. Well, man, I think that's all I can think of off the top of my head. I could probably rapid fire all day because I have a million questions, but I love I Am Second.
Again, then.
Oh, well, absolutely. Every guest I have has an open invitation, but obviously you do as well, because I'm just a fan of I Am Second. I'm a fan of the branding. I'm just a fan of everything you guys have done, and all the books, as we've talked about, everything you guys do. And again, I've praised this throughout this, and I genuinely mean it. I'm not trying to, give an easy review or anything like that. I really am a fan, as people have hopefully heard. And I've been honored to be on the site once with a blog post, which was one of the greater moments for me. That's cool, man. It was a kind of a big deal. And I'm honored, and I'm excited for where this book is going to go in the year ahead, because we are absolutely in a place where people need to know they're loved and they're not alone.
Yeah.
They're absolutely
Amen to
cared
that.
for. Yep.
Well, right back at you, Aaron. I'm a big fan of you. I've loved our interactions over the years, and I feel like this is the longest we've been able to hang out. So
It is.
I feel like we've gone deeper in our relationship now. So
Absolutely.
this has been
Absolutely.
fun. So yeah, let's for real do this again. And we don't have to do it when I have another book out. We can do it before then. So
Anytime.
um,
Anytime.
sounds great,
Maybe I'll
man.
come over to Pittsburgh when all the COVID's gone, and we
That
can hang
sounds
out at one of
great.
those awesome like rooftop restaurants downtown. Downtown.
I love it. Yeah, and we can go get my brother's coffee.
There you
And
go.
I've got a little farm I live on,
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
I'll give you some. We'll have the best homegrown lamb burger you can have. How about that?
Oh, that sounds amazing. Do you have a Ninja Foodie Grill?
No, but hey, we can make it happen.
Get
So
one. I'm
all
telling
right,
you. First of all, watch the episode that I just posted with Cooking with CJ.
yeah,
Not trying to promote my own podcast. You got to watch. Go get a Ninja Foodie Grill because they're on sale, and you can grill in
okay.
your house. And if you can make lamb, you are going to love. But you probably I assume you probably have a cooker and some other stuff. That's really cool.
You
But
know, I do not have that, so
okay,
you've got me intrigued.
Ninja Foodie Grill. Go Google it. Get it on sale right now before Christmas. Well, actually, so when people see this, it'll have aired next year. Anyway, go get it. Get your Ninja Foodie Grill. Follow Cooking with CJ, and we will connect in the new year, man. God bless you. Thank
God
you for
bless
your
you too, man.
books. Thank you for your friendship, and I look forward to really where this book is going to go.
Thank you for that.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon.
All righty.